We learned a few things in this past week. Well, actually, during Trump's whole presidency, we learned that the mainstream media is nothing but an arm for the deep state government. We learned that there's actually a deep state government. And also that a lot of American people didn't pay attention in social studies. All that and more on the TJ Evans Show. How's it going out there? I'm TJ Evans and this is the TJ Evans Show, brought to you by Royal Family Studios. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit the bell for notifications. Royal Family Studios. We're just trying to keep the lights on over here. I'm going to try to run through this video rather quickly, so bear with me. I got a couple of clips to explain it better than I would. So let's get started. When I said that people didn't pay attention in social studies, I really mean that people didn't pay attention in social studies because they do not understand how this process works. There's a reason why the votes are held November 3rd and nobody's inaugurated until January. It's because recounts. People have to make sure about what has happened. So everyone out there who's claiming that Joe Biden is the president, we don't know that for a fact. And from how it's looking, it's probably not true. Because if you can remember, on November 3rd, Donald Trump had the lead in the swing states. And then some reason over the next couple of days of counting votes and not allowing poll watchers to watch them count the votes. And when I say not allowing, I mean literally putting up barriers.
Including me, Angela, and one other. He gave us back a watcher form, right. But he said, you're rejected, you're rejected, you're rejected.
Jeanette Hormuth and Angela Smith showed up to watch Gillespie County elections workers count ballots on Election Day morning. Both are lead poll watchers training less experienced watchers. Both handed the presiding judge their official forms, but the judge wouldn't let them through the door. Why?
And his reason was, and he wrote it here, rejected due to current litigation involving poll watching.
That litigation is a lawsuit Hormuth filed last year, alleging voting irregularities and that the county elections office obstructed poll watchers during the ballot counting in an election from a year ago.
After all that was said and done, they came out and said that Joe Biden got the exact votes that he needed, the exact number of votes that he needed to overtake Trump in this election. I mean, seriously, people, they said 100% of the mail-in ballots that were coming in were for Joe Biden. That's just improbable. That's not how math works. But Rudy Giuliani, Trump's lawyer, is not taking this lying down. He came out on TV and said that he was going to be filing lawsuits on Monday. I'll let him explain it.
The first part of a situation that is extremely troubling, first of all for the state of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and then for a number of other states. And these lawsuits will be brought starting on Monday. But the first time it was discovered was here in Pennsylvania just a couple of days ago. The people you see behind me are just a few of about, I'd say, 50 to 60 poll watchers who will all testify that they were uniformly deprived of their right to inspect any single part of the mail-in ballots. As you know, from the very beginning, the mail-in ballots were a source of some degree of skepticism, if not a lot of skepticism, as being innately prone to fraud. The New York Times had written that 10 years ago under other circumstances, but of course changed their mind once it was a situation involving President Trump. Congresswoman Jordan, in her vast and compendious review of various forms of voter fraud cited mail-in ballots as the most prone to fraud. With all that, you would have expected there'd be a high degree of security and a high degree of inspection that would be provided for mail-in ballots. Instead, in the wisdom of the officials, Democrat officials here in a city that's been Democrat for 60 years and has a very long history of voter fraud, documented history of voter fraud, instead of going to a high degree of care to allow inspections of the mail-in ballots, there was no inspection of a single mail-in ballot. Those mail-in ballots could have been for anybody. Those mail-in ballots could have been for anybody they wrote in. Those mail-in ballots could have been written the day before by the Democratic Party hacks that were all over the convention center. What I'm saying to you is not a single one was inspected as the law required. Even when a court order was obtained to allow the Republican inspectors to get 6 feet closer, they moved the people counting the ballots 6 further feet away. It's really simple. If you have nothing to hide with these mail-in ballots, you allow inspection. I mean, this is common knowledge, common practice.
Rudy Giuliani is not the only person that feels this way. Everyone could see that it was blatant voter fraud and cheating going on. Even Democratic Representative Vernon Jones had some words for his own party.
Hello, America. Hello, Georgia. Let me be frank and earnest. There's a dead cat on the end of this line. And it's stinking. It's stinking with fraud. It's stinking with lack of transparency. It's stinking with non-accountability. And it's stinking with those who call themselves wanting to have fair elections. It's stinking with their absence. Where is fair fight if you're standing for people's rights and their right to vote, and every vote is counted, every legal vote is counted? Where is fair fight? I'll tell you where fair fight is. Fair fight to that crowd is fair when their man is still in the election. That's when it's fair to them. As a member of the Georgia General Assembly, 12-year member, it is my duty to speak up for every Georgian when their vote is not being counted, when their vote is not being counted accurately, and when there's all this type of irregularities taking place. Why haven't we called on Jimmy Carter to come? He can go to other countries and see their process through. And I don't mean that in a bad sense, because I like one of our native sons, President Carter, but he needs to be here if he's for fair votes, accountability, and transparency. That's what I like about Donald Trump. He travels with a set of twins. One named accountability and the other one named transparency. That's what I like about him. I've had Democrats, Republicans, black, white, gay, the whole across the whole state of Georgia. Matter of fact, across this country, saying what is going on in Georgia. I may not agree with your candidate, Vernon, but if they take my vote, if they take your vote away from you, they're taking my vote away from me. That's the American spirit. And what I see happen, this is a sham. This is a sham, and it's disgraceful. And criminal. I think it has the potential of criminality here. I just want, like every Georgian want, we want things to be done by the book. We can send a man to the moon, but we can't count votes accurately. I'm talking about the legal ones now. And we can't do it within 24 hours. How does a state the size of California get theirs in and Georgia can't get its in? That's because if you look, an example of the pandemic of failed leadership is where all these Democrats who are running these cities and overseeing these county elections, that's where you see, literally, I was getting ready to say something, but I'll be all over the damn news.
Those are pretty strong words from Vernon Jones, and I understand why he had to catch himself, because this whole process has been dirty from the beginning. Even when it comes down to Donald Trump and his coverage that he's been getting on the news, 98% of the media coverage is negative of Trump. They won't even say anything about Joe Biden. No news station, not even Fox. Fox won't talk about Hunter Biden and the computer that was found, but it was plastered all on the media about a Russia hoax that turned out to be a hoax, and nobody cares about that anymore. We don't care about these things. We call Donald Trump a racist, say it all on the news that he never denounced white supremacy, but clear as day, he's done it multiple times, even in the speech that y'all always quote. Same speech. But nobody wants to say anything about Joe Biden not being able to hold a conversation, not being able to keep his hands off of children. I'm going to leave that alone, though. I just hate the double standard. Even down to the double standard where when this started, the news media said prepare for a civil war regardless of who wins. And they're going to have to drag Donald Trump out the White House because he won't accept the results of the vote. It's kind of ironic because for the last 4 years, the Democratic Party has done nothing but deny Donald Trump to be the president. This election proved something to me. It proved that people actually don't care about facts anymore. And people usually just project how they are, how they feel, what's wrong with them, their inner demons. Because that's the only thing that the Democratic Party has done to Donald Trump this whole time. Even it was funny, I was on social media and I saw a post where it says that if any of my Republican friends want to unfriend me just because I voted for Joe Biden, and they had a sign that said Biden. That was cute. But in all actuality, if people paid attention to what was going on, I've been unfriended and blocked because of my views on Donald Trump. And I know a couple of people who suffered the same thing. It's not the conservatives that are blocking the liberals. It's vice versa. It's not the leftists that are out here attacking people. I mean, it's the leftists out here attacking people, not the conservatives. The news media came out and said that it was going to be a civil war, spewing this narrative that it was going to be a civil war. But who has been violent in the streets? Has it been the left? It's been the right. It's sad that it's come this way, but this is what the news been perpetuating this whole time. They've been wanting division. And as soon as they bring in division, they can implement their own laws, their own policies. Socialism. That's what we're on the verge of, is socialism. With Joe Biden in office, even though more than likely he won't be in office, socialism is coming. He can be controlled. He can be manipulated. And then we have Kamala Harris, who is like the most leftist senator that we ever had. Even the people on her side claim this.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
Yeah. Well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all. You've supported legalizing marijuana. Joe Biden doesn't support those things. So are you going to bring the policies, those progressive policies that you supported as senator, into a Biden administration?
what I will do, and I promise you this, and this is what Joe wants me to do, this was part of our deal. I will always share with him my lived experience as it relates to any issue that we confront. And I promised Joe that I will give him that perspective and always be honest with him.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No. No, it is the perspective of a woman who grew up a black child in America, who was also a prosecutor, who also has a mother who arrived here at the age of 19 from India, who also, you know, likes hip hop. Like, what do you want to know?
I mean, look how she was fidgeting. She couldn't even stand the fact that a news member, a journalist, a leftist journalist on the mainstream media would ask her such a question. She didn't know how to handle it. And the only thing she could do is the same thing that left always does: play victim. This whole scenario I already played out in my head. I know when the votes come in, more than likely Donald Trump will remain the president. And I'm going to let Ted Cruz tell you why that may be.
10 states, he says, that are potentially stolen, 800,000 votes in question, according to Rudy Giuliani. Walk us through the process. You are a constitutionalist, an expert on the Supreme Court. How does this work in terms of the federal court system with these lawsuits pending?
Well, we've seen multiple lawsuits already filed. I expect there will be more lawsuits filed, probably in each of those states that I mentioned, and maybe more. We may well see cases filed both in state court and in federal court. We will have trials on the matters that are contested. And the purpose of a trial is to hear evidence. We're hearing lots of allegations of a dead person voted. We heard a report from one county in Michigan where the election software mistakenly counted 6,000 votes that were cast for Donald Trump. It switched them to Joe Biden. Now, they apparently caught that. But that same software is used in 47 counties throughout Michigan. That needs to be examined to determine that there's not a problem counting the votes. And the legal process is how you resolve those questions. You know, one of the frustrating things, just as an American watching this, is you hear all these allegations of what's going on, and it's hard to know what the facts are. It's hard to know what the truth is. Well, we have a process for ascertaining the truth, which is that you can go and present evidence and test it in a court of law, and then those appeals will go up both through the state appellate system and the federal appellate system, and this case could very easily end up at the U.S. Supreme Court. You know, you mentioned Bush versus Gore, which I was part of representing then Governor George W. Bush. In the course of 36 days, we had multiple cases throughout the state of Florida. It went twice to the Florida Supreme Court. It went twice to the U.S. Supreme Court. It took 36 days to resolve, and we got an answer. I would expect a similar process to play out here, despite the media trying to tell everyone, give up, go home, we know who we want to win. That's not how it works. We need to follow the law, and that means allowing the legal process to play out.
So we did not learn about the results from Gore versus Bush until December of that year, right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you look at the federal statute that governs the timing of presidential elections, it actually anticipates that there will be recounts, that there will be contested litigation. If you look at the federal statute, December 12th is the date that the electors meet to vote. December 8th is what's called the safe harbor deadline, which is that any contest election before that, if it's resolved, that resolution is presumed valid. So the federal statute anticipates that there are going to be contests, there are going to be recounts. And here's one dynamic that's important to understand. Particularly in this COVID time, this has been a strange election. On Election Day, Donald Trump won a large majority of the votes counted on Election Day. That was true throughout the country. With mail-in votes that were early votes, Joe Biden won a significant majority of the mail-in votes that came in. Now, in several states, we're going to see a recount process. A recount process, you look at those votes, you determine if they're accurate, if they're fraudulent, if they have sufficient signatures, if they meet the statutory standards for a legal vote. What is interesting is historically, mail-in votes are much more likely to be disqualified in a recount than in-person votes. Generally, in-person votes, they're conducted at the polling place, and they usually stand.
That makes perfect sense. What do you think? Do you think that Joe Biden is going to be president, or do you think that Donald Trump is going to retain the White House? And conservatives, honestly, even if we do lose the presidency, we still maintained the Senate, and we gained a couple of more seats in the House. So it was still a win for us. And at the end of the day, this country cannot be split up just because of who you voted for. Now, I know that I believe that anyone who voted for Joe Biden is more than likely misinformed. For some reason, anyone who votes for Donald Trump, in their mind, is either insane, racist, a bigot, or a misogynist. Always attributing malice to who we voted for in the polls. But I know some great conservatives out there. I know some great liberals. And I know some really, really terrible leftists. And I know some pretty bad Republicans. But at the end of the day, we have this freedom of speech to wean out the bad ideas from the good ideas. Like, that's the only way that we can actually move forward as a country, is to be able to have a conversation. And if you don't feel like sitting down at the Thanksgiving table with a family member just because they voted for Trump, and now you think they're evil, what does that say about you? But that's all I have for you today. I'm your host, TJ Evans. Thank you for joining us. Y'all stay safe, stay prayed up, and do your research. Remember, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Subscribe to the page, Royal Family Studios.